So here I have basic functions stated. So to start off, let's just go with what is a function? And really a function is defined to be a relationship where each input has a single output value. So for instance, if x is equal to 1, but it ends up giving y values up to and -2, it ends up failing the vertical line test, which means that it is not a function. So really there has to be a distinct value. However, at the same time, it's possible to see that two different input values give the same output value, which would mean that it is still a function. So it's not to be confused with the other idea. So it's important to understand that each input has a distinct output value, and that's what defines a function. So obviously there are many types: linear, quadratic, cubic, and quartic. In this lesson, I've specifically mentioned more about linear functions and their importance. So just to start off with linear functions, their slope-intercept form is basically y is equal to mx plus b, where m stands for slope or the constant rate of change. And b, as you can see here, is the y-intercept, which is really the value of y when x is set to 0. So the y-intercept will always be denoted by the symbol or the letter b. And so this form is known as the slope-intercept form. And really, when you're looking at linear lines, you have two types, obviously. You have parallel lines and you have perpendicular lines. With parallel lines, you see that their slopes are equal, so they have congruent slopes. With perpendicular lines, you see like if one slope is 3, the other one must be -1/3, because their slopes must have a product of -1, as you can see here. So let's take an example. For instance, we have 3x minus 2y is equal to 4. Of course, this is not in the slope-intercept form, so either we can make this or convert this into the slope-intercept form, or there's another formula to directly determine the slope of this line. 3x minus 2y is equal to 4 is in the form of ax plus by is equal to c. And its slope is really -a over b, which would in this essence mean that it's -3 over -2, giving a slope of 3 over 2. However, if you don't want to do this and you want to convert this into the slope-intercept form, you can obviously write this as this basically, because you can subtract the 4. So you have 3x minus 4, the 2y goes here, so you divide it by 2. So 3x minus 4 divided by 2 is equal to y, and y is equal to 3 over 2x minus 2. And again, you see that the slope is 1.5 or 3 over 2. And in both cases, what the 3 over 2 means, and in later, as you will see in word problems, it's really the constant rate of change. So usually with these functions, you see that there's a rate of change that's constant. For instance, 5, 8, 11, 14, and that later ties up with an arithmetic sequence where there's also a constant rate of change. So here I have a question, and it usually brings in many concepts together. So find the equation of the line that is perpendicular to 3x plus y is equal to 17 and passes through the point 15, 2.5. So first of all, you really want to look at this equation and find its slope. Again, just by looking at it, you can say slope is -a over b, which in this case would mean -3. And then if you know that the product of the slopes must be -1, you can do -1 divided by -3. And so you will get 1/3. So you know that the line that's perpendicular has a slope of 1/3. So, and you know the point that it passes through being 15, 2.5. So you place 2.5 here in for y, you place 15 in for x, times by 1/3, which is the slope, plus b, also known as the y-intercept, which needs to be determined. And so solving this, you get b is equal to -2.5. And so really the overall answer here would be y is equal to 1/3 x minus 2.5. And basically this is a description of linear functions. And when you look at some other definitions that are important, you have the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So the x-intercept is the value of x when y is set to 0, and the y-intercept is the value of y when x is set to 0. So if you have a function like y is equal to 1.5x minus 2, to determine the x-intercept, you really have to put 0 in for y, and computing that you get 4/3, 0. And for the y-intercept, you can just look at the function, and knowing that it's 3/2x minus 2, you know that b stands for the y-intercept. So the y-intercept in this case would be 0, -2. Thank you.